What's good, everyone? Welcome to KGW's Sports Sunday Plus.
Yeah, let's call it that.
A little something extra following the show.
Yeah.
A chance to really let it breathe. We're under deadlines and trying to squeeze so much into the show.
Yeah.
We don't get a chance to just chat, especially about some of the bigger stories. So my name is Orlando, alongside the one and only Art Edwards.
Yes.
How you feeling this Sunday, first and foremost, man?
Man, I'm feeling great.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. What is there to complain about?
Nothing.
Not a whole lot, I guess, unless you're a Beavers fan hoping for a W.
Yes, that's true.
Before we get to those Beavs in that huge game, let's talk about the Oregon Ducks and that game against Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of eyes on that game. National audience. Deion Sanders in town.
Yep.
But it turned out to not be a game. And we've been joking about how you called it, the receipts involved, and whatnot. So what'd you see in that blowout? 42-6 advantage Ducks.
You know what? I thought that the Ducks were even more dominant than I thought they would. I mean, I knew that they really felt that they were going to win that game pretty easily. 3 touchdowns at least. I liked the line. That was, 20, 21 points. I didn't figure that it would be any closer than that. I thought that the numbers would be different. Like, I thought we would be talking, you know, if we were talking over 40 points, that Colorado still would have scored a touchdown.
Right. One of the questions we had was how would that defense hold up, because we weren't sure if they had really been tested, especially with a dynamic quarterback like Shedeur Sanders.
Yes.
But they locked him up. They exposed their lack of ability to run the ball.
Yes.
They sacked Shedeur 7 times.
Yes.
Most since 2017 for the program. What'd you see out of that?
Well, that the offensive line for Colorado is not very good at all. I mean, I think they have, 40 yards rushing for the game. There were those 7 sacks, like you mentioned. You know, I'd watched some of the other games. I watched them when they played Nebraska. I watched quite a bit of that game. I watched a lot of the Colorado State game. And I felt like Oregon would be able to do a lot of things on defense. They would be able to hold them in check. But I didn't think that they would be that dominant. I mean, you know, they had, 20 yards offense in the first half. It was crazy just how dominant Oregon was.
There were some wild stats. I was at the game in Eugene, and at halftime, when it was 35-0, and you're looking at the scoreboard, and you can't believe what you're seeing. The Ducks had more points than Colorado had yards.
Yes.
The Ducks had more touchdowns than Colorado had first downs. Let that marinate in a game that featured 2 top 25 teams. There was so much hype around this game. Deion Sanders coming to town, the national audience that we mentioned. There was a lot of anticipation going into this, and Ducks fans understood the assignment, and they really showed out in this game. Almost 60,000 made it out to Autzen Stadium, which was the 6th largest crowd in Autzen Stadium history. So what'd you think about all of that as well?
Well, you know, one of the things that surprised me after the game was hearing Deion Sanders talk about it. You know what, to his credit, he says, hey, you know, we got beat. We got our butts kicked. But what really surprised me was he acted like they actually had a team that should have been able to compete. And there was never any chance that Colorado was going to be able to compete in that game. They're just building a program. It could be another couple of years before they would be ready to compete with a top 10 type of team. They don't have the horses yet. And the fact that he thought that they were going to be able to dominate in some areas of the game, I thought, what's he talking about?
Right, you got to have that type of confidence.
Well, you do.
For your team, and he's not necessarily going to come out and say, "Man, I thought we were going to get worked. I am 42-6." So I understand that, but you are right. I mean, his tone would suggest otherwise, that they really thought they were going to come into Autzen Stadium and do something big like that, and clearly that didn't happen. And we didn't even really talk about the offense and what Bo Nix was able to do. Troy Franklin, your eyebrows raised last time because I think we both look and say he is him. That is an NFL caliber wide receiver.
No doubt about it. I mean, he is really something else. When you see him out there running around, and he's fast, he can get to the ball, he's physical. You know, he can just swat away, you know, smaller defensive backs. He is really impressive.
That Nix-Franklin connection, there were just multiple back-breaking moments that really just took the air out of the ball for Colorado, on top of the deficiencies that they had offensively. Defensively, they couldn't stop Oregon, and that's something that you thought would happen as well, just based on how elite Oregon's offense has been.
Number of points, not a surprise. The fact that Colorado could do absolutely nothing on the offensive end, that was a bit of a surprise.
I was entertaining to see all of the off-the-field stuff that went on this week. And I mean, this was something that was on the radar for Ducks fans and everybody watching the Pac-12 based on what Dan Lanning had said at Media Day. You were there for that when he suggested that. And
what have they won?
Yeah, what have they won? And I know they were asking about the move out of the Pac-12, but it was something that carried some weight over. And clearly this game meant something to Oregon and Dan Lanning and that coaching staff.
No doubt.
One with that huge audience on hand, everybody looking. This was a recruiting opportunity for Dan Lanning. This was an opportunity to show the nation that Oregon is just as good and Oregon deserves some national respect in all of this, because they're also vying for much more down the road. So these are building blocks to getting to that point and being in the discussion for national championship opportunities.
It was quite the Saturday.
What did you think of the cameras being in the locker room for Dan Lanning's pregame speech and him basically saying the Cinderella story is over. They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins. What did you think of that?
Well, I loved it. I mean, clearly it was thought out what he was going to say, how he was going to say it. But I thought that it was really fun and really important that people got to see just how passionate he and the team were going to be.
And I also got a chuckle out of it because he said, we don't want to be the flashy team. I'm sorry, but part of Oregon's brand is being flashy.
Yes.
But yes, you got to fire up your team, and he did so, and he got them to respond in that way because I know Dion mentioned, hey, I'm keeping the receipts. I've got the receipts. He's going to remember that. They took note of that. He's got messengers. But at the same time, Colorado had its moment when they came out. You saw all the social media videos, those players coming out, one player dragging his feet on the O at the 50-yard line. And clearly it was motivation, and as Coach Sanders has said, they took it personal as well. And the Ducks responded. So a great win for them. Now they go on the road to Stanford, where they're big-time favorites to beat the Cardinal. I asked you this on TV as well. Do you think that could be a trap game, knowing that Washington is after that?
I just think that Stanford isn't good enough to make it a trap game. Maybe to be a little bit closer than we think. Maybe they'll struggle a little bit, but Stanford just isn't a strong enough team at this point to make it into something that we would really worry about.
Okay, let's talk about the other big game. You were locked into this one.
Yes.
Washington State at home against Oregon State, a top 25 matchup. First time they've gone head-to-head when they've both been ranked in the top 25. Well, also the cloud over them, knowing that they are the Pac-2. It was a Pac-2 championship. They're aligned. Their leadership has come out, presidents and athletic directors. They've been united in all of this, but there was still a football game to be played, and Washington State holds on for the 38-35 victory. What did you think about this game?
Well, the big thing I thought was that the quarterback of Washington State, Cameron Ward, he is way better than I thought he was. I mean, I thought he was really good last year, but I didn't really expect that he would have progressed as much as he has. He has total command of that offense, and he just showed that, I know what I'm doing, I know what I can do, and I can get it done. And we thought beforehand this was going to be a game of the Wazoo passing attack and the Oregon State running attack. And it really kind of came down to that. You know what? If Oregon State, because they got behind by, 2 touchdowns early in the first quarter, they were behind the ball the whole time. Or behind the chains, as they say a lot of times. And that's where they were the whole game.
Good point. Washington State built a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. And to your point, that's not really Oregon State's forte. No. That's not the style of game that they are best at. Having to chuck the ball around, play quick like that. They want to control this game. They want to pound the ball. And that kind of got taken away from them, and they had to figure out a way to get back in this game. And to their credit, they did.
They did, yes.
Maybe they recover an onside kick, and they've got a shot there.
We could be talking about it much differently if that was the case. You know what? I thought they did a great job of hanging in there. That the last drive, their last scoring drive, just a couple of minutes to go, probably more than 90 yards. I mean, they moved it down the field. They just don't strike me as a team that is a quick strike team. It's like they have to build up the momentum on every drive. We got to run a couple of times. We'll rip off a couple of 10, 15-yard runs. We'll throw a nice pass for another 10 yards. But it feels like they're having to build the momentum every time they get the ball and they start a drive. It's not going to be one play and like the second play of the game, 63 yards for Washington State. I don't get the sense that Oregon State will do that kind of thing all that much.
I do agree with you on the Cameron Ward stuff. Look out for him. And he's earned this,
Yes.
the respect
Definitely.
to be in that Heisman conversation
Absolutely.
on what he's done based on this season. His numbers are off the charts. He's basically
Yes.
top 5 in multiple
crazy.
categories
Yes.
nationally. And Washington State has now beaten 2 top 25
Oh, yeah.
opponents on the resume in the early season.
Yes.
Like that is big.
That
And
is
that should matter. I'm curious to see what Washington State can now do on the road. We know
Yeah.
how difficult it is to win at home, but let's see what they do away. But right now, they've passed the test. They deserve to be in the conversation, and
yeah.
their schedule opens up nicely for them
does.
to make it to that Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I think, we really are going to be looking at the last game of the regular season when they play Washington in the Apple Cup. And I think that could be a game that might decide who's going to get into that championship game, as the game Oregon and Oregon State could be the same team. Those 4 teams could be at the top of the conference and looking to figure out which ones are going to get in the championship game.
So I ask you to kind of button all of this up.
Yeah.
What your concern level, how much does that hurt Oregon State losing the Pac-12 opener? I mean, it's a good team.
Right.
We thought it would be close. It was kind of a pick-em type of game.
Sure.
But now they're 0-1 in conference play, 3-1 overall, and now have a quick turnaround
to Utah.
and have to face Utah,
Yes.
the defending champs in all of this.
Yeah.
How do you think all of that plays out? And if you could give me just a little bit on how you think that'll play out against Utah.
I don't think one loss kills you in the conference, because I think all the teams in the conference are going to have at least one loss.
Totally.
So it doesn't hurt you that much. I think the key to the game on Friday with Utah is whether or not Cameron Rising is going to play. He hasn't played yet this year. Their offense really was pretty stagnant against UCLA. They have a freshman or a redshirt freshman playing at the quarterback position. He's not an accomplished passer. He's very athletic. But I think that if Rising can't play, or if he isn't really fully ready to play, then Oregon State probably gets that win.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Friday night. That should be good stuff, especially at home. The Beavers are so good. Right now, they are slight favorites. I mean, we're talking a point or two, which is less than you usually get being the home team. So that's going to be a really good game to follow. So, the Beavs now 19th in the AP poll. The Ducks now 9th. In the AP poll. So a long way to go in the Pac-12 schedule, but man, this was pretty entertaining for week number 1 of the farewell tour with the Pac-12 conference, and that being the Pac-2 championship game. Maybe those 2 teams will go head-to-head one more time.
At the end of the year.
All right, let's flip the script for our final topic here, and that is Damian Lillard and his trade request and all of that's happened over the past couple of months, where we're wondering what's going to happen. Is Dame going to be traded? And right now, trade talk is heating up based on multiple reports from multiple NBA insiders across the league. And it makes sense right now because training camp is a little over a week away. And I think most parties don't want this smoke. They want this over with before you start. It's like the first day of school. They want a fresh start. They want to talk about the excitement of the upcoming season. They don't want to be talking about a potential trade, especially when it involves your face of the franchise. So, Art, what do you think about how things have gone on so far?
Well, it's just, it has just dragged on so long. I mean, it's a tough position because, Dame made it clear that there was one place that he wanted to go. So it made it really difficult because Miami doesn't have a whole lot of assets to deal with. And
or not enough.
Not enough. Not enough.
Portland wants.
Not the kinds of things Portland wants. So it makes it really difficult. And Portland cannot afford to blink. They can't take a smaller deal, a lesser deal, just because they want to get this done. Because then you would be damaging the franchise for the future.
Right. Joe Cronin can't mess this up.
No.
It's such a bummer for Trailblazers fans. I don't think
it is.
99.9% of Trailblazers fans don't want this to happen.
No.
They don't want Dame to be traded. But if Dame is ready to go and clearly the path isn't there for him to win a championship, I feel like the majority of Trailblazers fans also understand that. And say, okay, if we're rebuilding and we're starting, fresh, let's get Dame to where he wants to go. He's done so much for this organization, so much for this city, on and off the court. For the Trailblazers, they can't take less.
Nope.
They have to get the most out of this. And it makes sense why they're reportedly on the phone, taking calls from teams all over, and not just including the Miami Heat.
Sure.
Because they need those options.
Right.
One. And for two, that's how you up the ante.
Right.
That's how you get Miami to pay more.
Yes.
Because right now, clearly Miami says this is what we've got.
Yes.
Take it or leave it in some ways. And
right.
why would Miami bid against themselves?
Right. That wouldn't make any sense at all. So it becomes really complicated, confused, messed up, however you want to say it, because there's one place that he really wants to go. And you have to figure that out. I mean, we've been talking for a long time, and a lot of the real experts have been talking that it's going to take more than one team. It's not going to just be a Dame to Miami, Miami sending people here and picks here. It's not going to be that. It's going to have to be another team involved to get the kind of assets that the Blazers are going to want and everybody else is going to want.
Yeah, and I think that's why now you're also seeing those national reports come out from multiple places now, mentioning teams like the Toronto Raptors, the Chicago Bulls, the Brooklyn Nets, the Phoenix Suns. Like those are all teams that make sense in one way, or may have a piece that or asset that the Blazers are interested in that would help sweeten the pot, that somehow still gets Dame where he wanted to go, Miami.
Yes.
But at the same time, if Miami doesn't come up, it still gives the Blazers some firepower to say, all right, well, we're making the deal.
Yes. Could we see this drag on to the trade deadline?
Man, it's super possible, especially if it doesn't happen within this week, where there's kind of that deadline that's there.
It feels like that.
Where they want to handle that. But once they get through that first layer of, all right, Dame's here, and this is what's going to happen. We're going to play games, and that's going to be a whole other story. But at the same time, you're right. I mean, they don't have to make a deal until the trade deadline, and even then, they technically don't have to make it.
He's under contract.
But I think all parties involved want
to
get this done. But let's see if it actually does. Man, that was a great conversation with you.
Cool stuff.
Time to wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. Thank you so much for watching Sports Sunday as well as Sports Sunday Plus here on KGW Plus. Good night, everyone.